Thank you, Dr. Subhash Hira. Thank you, Santosh ji, for introducing me to this platform, and thank you, Sambodhi, for organizing this. Let me first, give you an overview of what REC has been doing in CSR. REC Limited is a non-banking finance corporation. It lends to the power sector, and as per the government CSR Act, 2% of the net profit has to be spent on CSR. So we have they have established the REC Foundation, which is the implementing arm of CSR implementing arm of REC Limited. So if we look at last 5 to 6 years when it has been made mandatory, we have contributed to building toilets primarily in the schools. This has reduced open defecation, and then we funded hundreds of solar rooftop primarily to support environmental sustainability, but it also helped in market uptake. Then we have been supporting aspirational districts, particularly in health, nutrition, and school education. 7 districts have been kind of picked up by us. These are all really remote districts. As far as Kifre in Nagaland, which is geographically the remote most, as well as in terms of the delta index. And then another bucket of funding that we have done is in the disability. A lot of aid and appliances, electricity centers, etc. And skilling and reskilling is another area that we have been funding. You would see in the table the amount of the sanctions and the expenditure that we have made. And yet another is the the COVID support. So let me just come to the COVID pandemic and something about the migrant workers. I think my previous speaker spoke about it at length, but still to give a backdrop to particularly the skilling, let me just narrate it. Lockdown 1 to 3, we did not have much of issue. Migrant workers managed to stay put, and one of the major issue was the ration and meals. I think that was government was able to provide. But then whatever I have gathered, it's not based, and also based on whatever I have read, but the rent, monthly bills on electricity, water, medicine, school fees, and more than all this, it's uncertainty, which made them start going back to their homes. That is during the lockdown 4. When this actually started off, people started going by foot, cycles, tricycles, auto rickshaw. Then government machinery got into action. Special trains were run. Government organized buses were run. And let me come to what kind of migration is happening. We Anish also told us just a while ago. We have almost 140 million migrant workers in India, and these primarily come from 4 states: Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, and Madhya Pradesh. Where do they go? They go to Mumbai, Delhi, which are the major destinations. Where do they work? They work mostly in manufacturing and construction, and most often they are pretty vulnerable. They don't have inadequate health care, nutrition, housing, and sanitation. That's what we are seeing now. They are the first ones to kind of return back to their hometowns. They unfortunately don't get PDS also. So whatever was supplied to them through the government machinery, that they were receiving, but in other words, routine PDS, because the ration card is elsewhere in their hometown and the same thing is not running here. The government actually tried to address over the especially the lockdown 4 period. That's one good thing that has started. One nation, one ration card, that they did start. So yeah, that's what I'm coming to. This slide really narrates what was the government response. They also increased the allocation to NAREGA, and they increased the daily wage. And there is now almost 10 million migrant workers have reached back the district headquarters. Is the kind of number as of 30th May. This is increasing, and something like 3 million to UP, 2.5 million to Bihar. And if you see, I was trying to read up and try to simulate what is happening, and then particularly coming to skilling also. So quarantines are being done at district headquarters. There are lots of questions on it, how good they are, everything is there. My previous speaker spoke about it. Before they reach their villages. That's what they're planning to do. Government is trying to, from UP, I was gathering what is being planned, what is being done. They are planning to give affordable houses, shops pay for their GSTs, provide electricity, water, and other amenities. One they have started is a government portal. Apparently, about 1.5 million people have registered. According to that, 150,000 people were working in real estate, 30,000 in furniture technicians, home decorators, drivers, electricians, home appliances, etc. So government is also trying to do migrant commission and trying to help the laborers engage. They're trying to engage the industry association into it. And some districts, especially in UP, one district, one product branding, marketing is also being thought out. All these are in process. Now, where does the money come from? I was reading up. 1% cess is collected on the construction, whichever is higher than 10 lakh rupees. Construction, they collect 1%. So typically, it has already accumulated about 52,000 crores, and 75% of that remains unused. But not necessarily where there is money, there are migrant workers. So if you see UP and Bihar are the large migrant population, my guess is I don't have those state-wise details, but my guess is the cess collected there may be lower. But in all, there is some money available to make a rehabilitation to these displaced workers. So I was trying to list down what are the needs that what should be done for these displaced labor. One is counsel them, because there's a lot of fear amongst them. When I have also spoken to quite a few, there is so much of fear, and they are not coming out to work. Even the drivers, they are all fearful, completely fearful. And second thing I was trying to see is we should create an awareness on opportunities. What are the plans of action on rehabilitation? What I covered in the last slide. What are those? We have to make them know. The third point I want to make is there is already this mapping of skills available with the displaced laborers, but we also have to the government and those who are say CSR, whoever are the ones in the development sector, also have to map the opportunity. Then the next one is the actually reskill them to tune, because in the large cities like Mumbai and Delhi, there would be part in construction, in either unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled laborers in large, say, apartment complexes or large shopping malls construction, etc. But when they are back there, if they want to find jobs there, the local construction infrastructure is something slightly different. So the reskilling has to be also has to be has to be little different. So that has to be somehow worked out. We also have to see what kind of opportunities exist in the the towns, the rural setup. Agriculture, value-added agriculture, food products are some of the areas that one can look into. Train on production, and also on various aspects related to the value adding of the product. Then another area is not only just them as the existing set of things, but also treat them as migrant startups. The way we have been trying to, startups generally would be we go into the software sector, but we really, because these migrants who have come back, at least quite a few of them are with some skills, technician, electrician. You have seen, we have seen this furniture, etc. And government of India has started government e-marketplace, and I must tell you that they started from scratch about 5-6 years ago. Now they are doing a business of about total business is about 25,000 crores. So can they be the input providers? Because a large number of people have been input providers to this government e-marketplace. Say somebody makes bags, somebody makes some furniture, and can it be sold in government e-market? Because a lot of governmental setups, municipalities, and people like us, public sector units, we have to buy from the government e-market. Even the governmental setup, district commissioners, first stop is government e-market. So can we link this migrant startups with the e-market? And then there is this common service centers. There are more than 300,000 of them. That literally means if you, there may be a lot more in cities, lot more in towns, but if you look at India, we have about 580,000 villages, and 300,000 would mean every second village should be having this, common service centers. They not only provide services but also train people. This should be much more used. I mean, migrant is one part, but even otherwise, they should be much more used. NSDC, National Skill Development Council, has been the nodal agency which has developed a lot of vocational syllabus. Now they have to, somehow they have to be engaged. I'm sure they would be engaged. They would be engaged in looking at the skill maps, requirement maps, and develop some kind of quickly vocations and skill through their accredited agency. Now coming to what we have been REC has been doing in this area, and what can we do in the say year to come, let's say. In the last 5 to 6 years, we have spent about $10 million, trained about, skilled about 30,000 people, and more than 70%, if I'm right, more than 80% are wage or self-employed. At least about 5 to 8,000 people. I do not have the correct numbers, but I'm very sure it is around that. Women are skilled and they are either wage employed or self-employed. Second area is, when Jammu and Kashmir post Article 370 abrogation, we were one of the first to commit support to almost more than 3,000 people. And as of now, the about 17 different locations across Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh have been identified and locations identified. Skilling should have started, but the lockdown is pulling us back. But hopefully, we will move on with it. And then we took up this very interesting mobile school concept, especially in Delhi itself. There are seven we identified through an NGO. We identified seven centers where migrants are there for several years, because these constructions happen, and beside that there is one more construction will start, and each construction goes to 4 to 6, 7, 8 years. So what happens is that children are just not, they are not taken into the regular schools because of various reasons. So what we are supporting is they can be trained on NIO, National Institute of Open Schooling. And where do they sit and read? Because even if we want to give money, their informal housing or that area, you cannot construct. So, it's so hot, especially in the summer months. You can't expect them to make them sit in under a tree and educate. So we provided this bus mobile school, which has been, interiors have been converted to a classroom, and we have provided some fans. We have provided the solar roofing to the bus is yet to have that solar roofing, but it will have solar roofing to power that whatever little things are required with the smart class, etc. So it started working, and then skilling varieties of things, whatever are required in that particular region, have been supported. Going forward, what can we do? Especially, we can focus this year for migrant workers. Uh, Support a few districts in UP and Bihar, which are the worst hit, and then identify and support about say 10,000 people. Train them on not only on their skills, but what is equally important these days is they should know about banking, they should know about language, they should know about government schemes, how to avail them, and how to use the digital platform. And we would like to dedicate about 25% of our whatever leftover CSR funds we have. So we have provided a lot of funds for the COVID response, uh, and then carefully map the skills required. Particularly if you have to support the migrant workers, and then we would also like to continue to support this uh, migrant children on educating them. So this is what, in the nutshell, I wanted to say about skilling, reskilling, little bit about REC, what we would like to do, and what really should be done. This is what in a nutshell. I hope I have been on time. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Once again, on behalf of REC Foundation as well as REC Limited.